What if I told you that after the final awakening, do your eyes never return to what they were? It's not about color, it's not about looks, it's about something that broke and something that was born. You try to talk normally. He tries to smile as before, but there's something in your eyes that delivers. People notice, some move away, others are restless without knowing why. Because your eyes now don't ask for approval, they watch, they cross. You started to see patterns, intentions, silences hidden in words. And when you see too much, there is no longer any way to pretend that you did not see it. Maybe you noticed it in the mirror. Maybe someone commented, or maybe only you know. But one thing is certain, after consciousness awakens, the gaze becomes a portal, and today you will understand why. Pause the video, go in the mirror. It really looks into your eyes for 30 seconds. Now it comes back. If you have awakened, you have seen something different, a glow, a depth, an intensity that frightens even you. I'll explain to you what happened. No one told you that, because most of the people who noticed it still don't understand what they're seeing. But there is a side effect of spiritual awakening that is visible, physical, and that other people notice before you do. Even if you don't have the slightest interest in spirituality, even if you don't believe in any of it, even if you don't want to admit it. It's not inner peace, it's not mental clarity, it's not that good feeling of being on the right path. It's something that appears on your face, that changes the way the world reacts to your presence, and that, once it begins, never goes back to the way it was before. His eyes changed. And if you've gone through a real process of inner transformation, you already know what we're talking about, because someone has already told you that, with that slightly disconcerted expression of someone who is describing something they don't know how to name. The paradox is this: the most visible sign of awakening is exactly what no one teaches, no one prepares, and almost no one explains. Children stop to stare at you. Animals react differently to your presence. People feel exposed without understanding why. And you, most of the time, have no idea what's going on until today. What you will understand here is not theory. It is not belief. It is not self-help packaged in spiritual language. There are 7 real, concrete, and identifiable effects that happen in the eyes of those who truly awaken, with explanations, with examples, and with the difficult side that no one has the courage to mention. If you've ever felt that your gaze has become different, that people react to your presence in ways they can't explain, or if you simply want to understand what happens to your eyes after your final awakening, you're in the right place. Comment here on number 7 if you've experienced at least one of the effects we're going to talk about, and see how many people are going through the same thing without knowing it. There's something that no one tells you about awakening. And it's not about meditation, crystals, or elaborate rituals. It's about your eyes. You know that moment when you look in the mirror and feel that the person looking back at you is no longer the same as a few months ago? It's not an impression. It's not tiredness. It's not the bathroom light playing a trick on you. Something has really changed, and the people around you have already noticed, even without being able to put into words what is different about you. Young children are the first to notice. They stop what they are doing and face you with that honest curiosity that only those who have not yet learned to pretend can have. Animals sniff out something different in you. A dog that has never seen you before is already coming towards you, as if it has known you for years. And the people, some say that their gaze has become deeper, more intense, that it seems that you see beyond what they are showing. Others simply look away without quite understanding why. This real phenomenon has no easy explanation, which is exactly why almost no one talks about it. What happened to your eyes after you began to awaken is not metaphor. It is not autosuggestion, and it is not coincidence. It is a visible change which appears in photos, which other people describe without you asking, which accompanies you everywhere you go. His eyes have turned into something they were not before, windows of the soul that are now, shall we say, wide open. And from now on, you will understand exactly what happened, why it happened, and what to do with it. When someone looks at you and says, "Your eyes have gone deeper," they're not praising you for politeness. They're reporting something they felt and can't explain. It's the kind of thing people talk about with a slightly disconcerted expression, as if they're trying to describe a color they've never seen before. It seems that you see right through me. Your gaze is too intense. I feel that you read my soul. Phrases like this do not come out of nowhere. They arise when someone is faced with a different look, a look that is clearly no longer the same as before. And the most curious thing is that those who say this, most of the time, do not even believe in spiritual awakening. They are simply describing what they see. What happens is that the eyes, after a genuine process of expansion of consciousness, are no longer just physical organs functioning on autopilot. They become portals. And this word, which may sound dramatic, is in practice the most honest description of what happens. The energy that circulates in you begins to manifest in a visible way, and the eyes are the point where this shows up most clearly. It is no wonder that in practically all spiritual traditions in the world, from Buddhism to Sufism, from shamanism to Egyptian traditions, the eyes have always been treated as windows to the soul. This is not ancient poetry. It is an observation accumulated for millennia. And most fascinating of all, this change is not something you control or perform. You don't wake up deciding to have a different look. It just happens, and the people around you notice it before you do. It's like that smell of rain before the rain comes. You don't see anything yet, but something in the air has already changed. Your eyes have become the most visible evidence of a transformation that goes far beyond what appears on the surface, and the specific effects it has on your daily life are stranger and more powerful than you might think. Imagine that you are in an ordinary conversation, work, family, any social situation, and suddenly you realize that you are seeing beyond what the person is saying. It's not that you're trying to analyze. It's not that you've studied body language or taken an NLP course. It's just that your eyes simply pick up what's behind the facade, automatically, as if they've been calibrated to read a frequency that was previously invisible to you. That perverging gaze is not a power that you turn on and off. It's just there, operating all the time, reading energy, reading truth, reading what people would prefer to be hidden. The reason this happens has to do with something that many traditions call the activated third eye, that center of subtle perception that, when awakened, begins to process information beyond what the physical eye picks up. The clairvoyance that emerges from this is not that dramatic movie thing where one sees clear visions like a television. It is more subtle than that. It is a certainty that comes before logic. It is knowing that something is not being said before having any proof. It is feeling the real layer behind the layer presented. Anyone who has been through this knows exactly what we're talking about. And those who have not yet gone through it will recognize it when it arrives. The side that no one tells is that this intense gaze has a real social cost. People feel exposed in front of you, and when someone feels exposed, the most common reaction is not gratitude, it's discomfort. "Stop looking at me like that. You make me nervous." Superficial conversations that die before they start because your gaze demands authenticity without asking permission. Some run away. Others, curiously, open up in a way they never opened up to anyone, because deep down, everyone wants to be really seen. And it is precisely there, in this tension between those who flee and those who approach, that another effect begins to appear in his eyes, perhaps the most disconcerting of all. Have you ever had someone look at you in the middle of a conversation and ask, "Are you there?" when you were completely present, listening to everything without being on your cell phone, without being distracted by anything visible? This is one of the most misunderstood effects of awakening, and also one of the loneliest to deal with. Your far-off gaze, that empty-eyed look that people describe with genuine concern on their faces, isn't a sign that you've lost your way. It's a sign that a part of your consciousness has learned to operate in layers that go beyond what's going on in the room. You are present, but not entirely in 3D. What happens is that expanded consciousness does not work on a single channel, like a radio locked on a single frequency. It processes in multiple dimensions simultaneously. And while your body is in a work meeting, a family dinner, a conversation, part of you is literally somewhere else, picking up, processing, integrating subtle information. It's similar to what happens to exceptional musicians during a performance. The body performs, but the mind is on a different plane, in a state that outsiders can't access just by looking. The difference is that the musician has an instrument in his hand to justify his absence. You don't. The real challenge here is that people interpret this deep gaze as coldness, as depression, as disinterest, and sometimes even as arrogance. You've changed, you've become strange, it seems you've lost the spark, are phrases that hurt. Especially when you know that what happened was exactly the opposite. You gained something, you didn't lose it. Learning to navigate this, to be present in a way that others can recognize without stifling the expansion that's happening in you, is a skill that develops over time. And speaking of something that people perceive in their eyes, there is an effect that is the complete opposite of this. Instead of emptiness, a light. Instead of absence, a glow that literally appears in photos. He takes 2 photos of himself, one from before his awakening process began and one recent. Place the 2 side by side and look specifically at the eyes. If you have undergone a real transformation, the difference will be there, visible, without needing a filter or good lighting to appear. It's not the smile, it's not the hair, it's not the angle of the photo, it's the eyes. The most vibrant iris, a clarity that didn't exist before, a sparkle in the eyes that seems to come from the inside out. This is one of the most curious phenomena and easiest to validate objectively, because it appears in an image. Compare old photos with current ones, and you will understand what we are talking about without needing any further explanation. The reason behind this has to do with what millennial traditions call prana, chi, vital force. This energy that, when it circulates more intensely and unblocked through the body, begins to manifest physically. The eyes, being the windows of the soul in the most literal sense, are the point where this energy appears most evidently. The body of light, a concept present in esotericism, Tibetan Buddhism, and several other traditions, begins to become perceptible precisely through the gaze. And it is not only those who believe this who notice, children and animals, who do not have an intellectual filter to discard what they feel, react immediately to this sparkle in their eyes. Babies smile spontaneously. Dogs follow you with their eyes. Cats, famous for ignoring everyone, approach. This light in the eyes works as a beacon at a frequency that certain beings capture naturally without having to learn. It's like those ultraviolet lights that humans can't see, but some animals do. The difference is that here, what radiates from your eyes is captured by those who haven't yet learned to block subtle perception. And if you've ever lived through this scene, a baby staring at you with that wide smile for no apparent reason, a strange animal coming straight towards you as if it knew you, you know that there's something going on that goes beyond the explainable. But along with this increased light, there is also a sensitivity that can take you by surprise, and that will be even clearer in the next effect. There's a scene that those who went through the final awakening immediately recognize. You try to sustain an answer that isn't completely true, not necessarily a big lie. It may just be a "I'm fine" when it's not. And your eyes just don't cooperate. The gaze deviates on its own, or worse, contradicts in real time everything your mouth is saying. It's not a lack of emotional control, it's not shyness. It's just that the alignment between what you are on the inside and what you express on the outside has become so strong that dissociation has simply stopped working. His gaze gives everything, always, without asking his permission. This is because awakening creates a kind of internal coherence that didn't exist before, and that coherence manifests itself first in the eyes. When you speak X feeling Y, the whole body registers the conflict, but it is the eyes that denounce it more clearly. The people around you notice this before you. I know when you lie just by looking. Your eyes speak more than you. You don't need to tell me. I've seen everything in your face. Relationships built on layers of falsehood begin to crack, not because you fought with someone, but because your presence began to demand authenticity in a way that people feel, even if they don't understand where that feeling comes from. The hard side of this is real and deserves to be said without romanticism. You become an open book. The visual vulnerability that comes with this effect can be uncomfortable, especially in environments where showing what you feel was something you've learned to avoid for years. But there's another side to this coin that's worth considering. When you can no longer hide what you feel, the connections that remain around you are the ones that can handle seeing it all. And those are the only ones that really matter. Interestingly, it's not just adults who notice this transparency in their eyes. There's a specific group that reacts to it in a way that goes far beyond what any adult could express. If you want honest validation that something has changed in you, forget about adult opinions for a moment. They have too many filters, too many judgments, too many rational explanations for everything. Pay attention to small children and animals. A 2-year-old who stops in the middle of his mess stares at you with that disconcerting seriousness that only a small child has and just doesn't look away. That child is seeing something. Babies who smile spontaneously when you approach, or who cry for no apparent reason as soon as they look you in the eye, are not reacting to your perfume or your clothes. They are reacting to your frequency. And the eyes are the point from which that frequency emanates most strongly. With animals, the phenomenon is equally accurate. Dogs that have never seen you in their lives come towards you with that confidence of someone who recognizes someone. Cats, who are notorious for ignoring even their owner when they want to, approach and stay. Birds that don't run away when you pass by. And these are not isolated events that happen once, and that's it. If this is repeated in different contexts with different animals, it is a real sign that something in your eyes has changed permanently. Children and animals have no agenda. They are not trying to please you. They do not know what social education is. They react to what they feel, period. And what they feel in you now is different from what they felt before. The side that can confuse is when a baby cries when he looks you in the eye, and the natural reaction is to think that you scared him, that you did something wrong, that there is something negative in you. But babies and highly sensitive animals sometimes react intensely not to what is bad, but to what is high. A high frequency can be as impactful as a low frequency, depending on the sensitivity of the recipient. Think of it this way: a powerful speaker playing in a small room is not something negative, but it is a lot. Your eyes have turned to this speaker, and not everyone is prepared for the volume. And speaking of something that may be too intense for some, there is a physical effect that accompanies all of this that most people never associate with waking up. There is a moment that many people who have gone through a process of expansion of consciousness describe with impressive clarity. You go out on the street on a sunny day and the light hurts in a way that never hurt before. It's not a headache, it's not a hangover, it's not a lack of sleep. It's a new hypersensitivity which appeared out of nowhere and stayed. Bright screens are more annoying than before. Environments with strong artificial light exhaust you at a speed that makes no sense. You start walking around with sunglasses in situations where you wouldn't need to before, and people around you think it's strange. They think it's exaggerated. They think you're trying to show off. But the spiritual photophobia that accompanies awakening is real, and it has an explanation that goes beyond the dramatic. What occurs is a profound recalibration of the nervous system, which becomes significantly more sensitive after a genuine process of inner transformation. The eyes, which now absorb more than they did before, energy, subtle information, frequencies that previously went unnoticed, are naturally more reactive to intense physical stimuli as well. It's as if the entire system has been upgraded to a higher resolution. Everything is sharper, more present, more vivid, and that includes the light. The increased brightness that you perceive in your gaze has a sensory cost that manifests itself exactly in this sensitivity to strong light. It's not weakness, it's the price of a system that now operates in expanded mode. The important point here, and one that needs to be stated very clearly, is that there is a line between spiritual sensitivity and physical symptom that cannot be ignored. If the pain in the eyes is intense and persistent, if it is accompanied by visual blurring, loss of vision, or sudden changes, the way is the doctor, without romanticizing, without replacing consultation with spiritual explanation. Discarding physical causes is not a lack of faith in the process, it is intelligence. That said, when sensitivity to light appears gradually, accompanied by other wake-up signals and without compromising functionality, it fits into a pattern that many people recognize, and that becomes easier to manage over time. And speaking of seeing beyond what most see, the next effect takes this to the most literal sense possible. It starts in a subtle way, a flash in the corner of your eye that disappears before you can focus. A shadow that moves where there shouldn't be, a kind of colored mist around a person that disappears as soon as you try to look directly. Most people dismiss it as tiredness, as optical illusion, as the mind playing tricks. And it can be the first time. But when this starts to repeat itself in different contexts with different people, and always accompanied by a specific sensation that is difficult to name, it starts to make sense to consider that your eyes are capturing something that was previously out of your visual range. Subtle vision doesn't arrive like in cinema with sharp and dramatic images. It arrives exactly like that, at the edges, in the flashes, in the impressions that pass too quickly to be analyzed. What is happening when this phenomenon is genuine is that the physical eyes and the activated third eye begin to work in tandem, and the result is a perception that goes beyond the physical, picking up layers of reality that have always been there, but that were outside the perceptible spectrum. To see aura is not necessarily to see vibrant, defined colors like in an esoteric book illustration. It is often an impression of visual temperature, a sense that the space around one person has a different quality than the space around another. Awakening clairvoyance is not a switch that turns on, it is a dimmer that gradually increases and responds better to relaxation than to effort. The more you try to force, the less it appears. The more you relax and allow, the more the vision beyond the physical reveals itself. The point that separates spiritual experience from something that needs medical attention is specific and important. If the visions are accompanied by intense fear, if they don't stop even when you want them to, if they begin to compromise your ability to function on a daily basis, to work, to relate, to distinguish what is real, this is the time to seek a health professional without hesitation and without guilt. Spirituality and mental health are not opposites. They coexist, and caring for one is respecting the other. But when subtle vision appears within a context of gradual expansion, accompanied by other signs of awakening and without breaking functionality, it fits a pattern that has been reported by people in completely different cultures and times. And the more you see, the more you notice something paradoxical happening, something that has everything to do with silence. There is a moment in the awakening process that comes quietly, without warning, and that completely reorganizes the way you relate to speech. You begin to realize that the things your eyes pick up, the truths that appear behind the masks, the energy circulating in a room, what is being felt but not said, simply do not fit into words. It's not that you don't know how to explain it, it's just that you try, and the explanation comes smaller than the experience. How to describe the difference in frequency between two people using only the available vocabulary? How do you translate into sentences what you read in someone's eyes before they even open their mouth? Language was built for the physical world, and what you're seeing now goes beyond the physical. Then something natural, almost inevitable happens. You talk less. Not because of arrogance, not because of distance, not because he became a hermit with no interest in social life, but because you learned, often the hard way, that exposing what you see can hurt those who are not ready to know. Telling someone what you see in their eyes, the insecurity hidden behind performative confidence, the fear disguised as anger, the loneliness covered by agitation, is not kindness, it is invasion if the person did not ask for it. Your eyes have become a silent archive of truths that you keep with a care that you didn't know you would need to have before. And this silence, far from being empty, is one of the clearest signs of real spiritual maturity. The complete paradox is this: the deeper the gaze, the fewer words it needs. Those who really see beyond do not feel the need to prove that they see, because the proof is already in their eyes, and those who are ready to perceive, perceive. The great masters of the world's oldest spiritual traditions had this in common. They weren't necessarily the most eloquent, but they had a deep look that people described decades later with the same intensity as those they had just experienced. You are learning, perhaps without realizing it, one of the rarest skills that exist, that of carrying knowledge without having to announce it. And precisely because this new look has so much power, a practical and urgent question arises. How do you deal with it on a daily basis without scaring people or isolating yourself from the world? The first thing that needs to be clear is that having an intense and crossing gaze does not mean that you are obliged to use it at maximum volume all the time. And learning to calibrate this intensity is one of the most practical skills you can develop right now. Just as an experienced musician knows when to play hard and when to play the piano, you can learn to intentionally soften your gaze in situations where full intensity would be more invasive than helpful. In practice, this is simpler than it sounds. Blink a little more, look away slightly during casual conversations, focus on the space between the person's eyes instead of the direct gaze. Small adjustments that lessen the pressure your gaze exerts without you having to pretend to be someone else. It's not hiding who you are, it's respecting the time of those on the other side. Sunglasses, which may seem like a futile detail, deserve to be treated as what they really are, a legitimate tool for sensory and energy protection. Using them in environments with intense artificial light, in very crowded places, or simply when you feel that your system is overloaded, is not an exaggeration or vanity. It is energy hygiene, in the same way that using sunscreen is physical hygiene. Another practice that makes a real difference is to stop forcing the subtle visions that start to appear. They come better when you relax than when you try. And when someone looks away from you, respect that movement without interpreting it as rejection. They're just not ready for that level of eye contact, and that's okay. Not everyone needs to be. The look you've developed is a powerful tool, And like any powerful tool, its value lies in knowing when and how to use it. In moments of deep connection, in conversations that ask for truth, in situations where you want to offer real presence to someone, that's where your eyes as a portal make all the difference, and people feel it in a way they can't ignore. The challenge is not to weaken what you have developed, it is to learn to direct it with intention. And part of that directing skill also involves knowing how to accurately distinguish what is a spiritual process from what is a sign that your body is asking for medical attention, a distinction that is clearer than it seems, and one that is well worth understanding. There is a dangerous narrative circulating in some spiritual circles that every physical symptom is just a process of awakening, and that seeking a doctor is a lack of faith or weakness. This is not wisdom, it is irresponsibility. The truth is that a genuine spiritual process and a medical condition that needs attention can coexist in the same body at the same time. And knowing how to distinguish one from the other is not distrust of the process, it is intelligence. If you're experiencing severe and persistent pain in your eyes, if you've had sudden vision loss or blurring, if the visions that appear scare you deeply and don't stop even when you want them to, or if your ability to function on a day-to-day basis is being seriously compromised, these are clear signs that the way is to go to the doctor's office, without romanticizing and without postponing. On the other hand, there is a specific pattern that characterizes genuinely spiritual changes in the eyes and perception, and it is quite different from the pattern of a physical or psychological problem that needs intervention. Changes that come in gradually over months, that accompany other signs of expanding consciousness, that don't compromise your basic functionality, that are validated by the reactions of children and animals around you, and that come with a sense of differentness rather than a sense of sickness. This set of characteristics points to something that is within the spectrum of awakening. The key is in the word functionality. If you can work, relate, distinguish what is real and navigate the day-to-day, even if differently than before, the process is within a territory that can be integrated. The most honest rule of thumb here is simple. When in doubt, go to the doctor first. Discarding physical causes does not weaken any spiritual process. On the contrary, it gives you the safe basis to continue the journey without that shadow of uncertainty in the background. Take care of your body as seriously as you take care of your conscience, because the two are part of the same process. And once you have that clarity, once you know that what you're experiencing is real, it's spiritual, it's part of a genuine transformation, here comes the most beautiful part of it all, understanding what to do with that gift that you've been given and that most people will never have the courage to develop. There is a change in perspective that completely transforms the way you live everything described so far. And it starts when you stop looking at the transformations in your eyes as problems to solve and start seeing them for what they really are, evidence of an evolution that most people will never experience. His eyes didn't break, they didn't look weird, they didn't develop anything wrong. They have evolved. And this word, evolution, is not being used here in a poetic or exaggerated way. An instrument that can now read energy, see lies, perceive what is behind the masks, and connect deeply with those who are ready for this connection, is a more sophisticated instrument than it was before. The discomfort that came along with this process is not a sign that anything has gone wrong. It is the natural price of any real expansion. The vision beyond the physical that you have developed, the intense gaze that frightens some and fascinates others, the inability to sustain falsehood, the heightened sensitivity, all of these together form a set of capabilities that, when used with awareness and intention, becomes one of the most powerful tools a human being can have. You can protect your energy more precisely because you feel it before you suffer the consequences. You can build truer connections because your gaze demands authenticity and attracts those who are willing to offer it. You can perceive dynamics in relationships, in environments, in situations that people around you simply do not see. And this, used responsibly, is a real advantage in the real world, not just in a spiritual conversation. What your eyes show now is your soul. And yes, that's scary, because it exposes, because there's no way to hide it, because it puts you in a visual vulnerability that there's no turning back. But it's also one of the most beautiful things that can happen to a human being so aligned with who you are inside that it overflows through your eyes before you even open your mouth. The people who stay around you from now on stay because they've seen it all, and they've chosen to stay that way. And the connections built on that foundation have a quality that is impossible to find otherwise. Your eyes have become windows of the soul in the most literal and most powerful sense, and what to do with it now, how to close this cycle of understanding, is exactly what comes next. Go to a mirror now, not the quick mirror you pass in front of you while brushing your teeth or adjusting your hair, a mirror of truth, with time of truth, with the intention of really looking. He looks into his own eyes for a few seconds and pays attention to what's there. Not in the tiredness of the day, not in the worries that are in line waiting for your attention. She looks at the eyes in herself, that glow that wasn't there before, that depth that is hard to name but that you feel, that intensity that sometimes surprises you, even though it's you. The mirror test is not a performative spiritual exercise. It is an invitation to find yourself with the version of yourself that emerged from the other side of everything you have been through. These are no longer the eyes of those who live on autopilot, of those who accept everything without question, of those who go through the days without really being present in them. They are the eyes of those who live, with a capital letter, with intention, with a consciousness that has changed permanently, and that has no way to go back to what it was before. The world around you will still try to fit you into the usual boxes, will still find your silence strange, will still be uncomfortable with your piercing gaze and your refusal to pretend what you don't feel. And that's okay, because you're no longer living to fit into the expectations of those who are still asleep. You are living to be whole, and your eyes are the most visible proof of that. The final awakening isn't a destination with a sign indicating that you've arrived. It's a different look in the mirror on an ordinary morning. It's a child staring at you with that curious seriousness. It's an animal coming at you for no apparent reason. It's someone saying, "Your eyes have changed," without being able to explain why. It is all of this together, accumulated, becoming clearer and more impossible to ignore. You've changed, and the world will have to get used to it. Not because you have become superior to anyone, but because you have become more you than you have ever been. And that, in the end, is all that awakening has ever meant. You've made it this far, and that says a lot about who you are. Most people close a video halfway through, go back to their feed, and go about the day exactly as it was before. But you stayed, and now comes the question that really matters. What are you going to do with all this? Because knowledge that doesn't turn into action is just well-packaged entertainment. And you didn't come here to be entertained. You came to understand something that was happening to you and that no one could explain. So stop for a second and ask yourself honestly, how many of these 7 effects have you experienced? Has your gaze changed and people have noticed before you? Do children take you with that curious seriousness that has no rational explanation? Do you feel that your eyes give everything away, that you can no longer sustain falsehood in your gaze, that the strong light bothers you in a way that it didn't bother you before? If the answer is yes to more than one of these, you're not getting weird, you're not losing your mind, you're not exaggerating, you are awakening. And the difference between those who awaken and remain lost and those who awaken and transform their own lives is exactly here, in the decision to stop ignoring what is happening and start working with it consciously. The world won't get easier just because your eyes have changed, but you'll be better able to navigate it, more able to see what is behind the masks, to protect their energy, to build true connections, to live with an integrity that most people will never have the courage to seek. This is not the privilege of a chosen few. It is the natural result of those who decide to wake up for real and not go back to sleep. The question is, will you use this look you have developed, or will you continue to pretend that nothing has changed so as not to scare those who prefer you to continue being who you were before? If this content touched on something real to you, if you recognized yourself in any of the effects, if you finally found words for something you were feeling but couldn't name, then you already know that this is the kind of conversation you won't find anywhere. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell now, because there is much more to come about awakening, about consciousness, about the real and practical effects of a genuine inner transformation. This is the space for those who are tired of shallow content and want to really go deep. I'll see you in the next video.